Oh, of course it wouldn't show up. There you go. Hey, it's Sol with news, updates, and analyses. But after writing this, it sort of came out like a rant analyses, if that makes sense. Today I want to analyze how grouping takes place in the world of Warcraft. Grouping happens when there's a challenge to be met, but it can't be completed alone unless you're a famous Death Knight like Ragewind. Screw that guy. But first, really quick, let me explain what a guild is. A guild is defined as the following, courtesy of Google. It's an association of people for mutual aid or the pursuit of a common goal. From a WoW perspective, this is about right. Guilds are formed between players of similar playstyles and other like-minded characteristics. There's a strong opinion out there that the usefulness of a guild, though, has diminished significantly over the years. And this is mostly due to the ease of group building tools like Group Finder and the pre-made group tool. I'll just call these like LFG, LFR, or PG throughout the video. Players say that participants in group activities are less social and more sensitive to challenges like wiping or slower than expected progression. They leave because it's so easy to just go and find another group. This leads to the mentality that guilds are less useful because they don't feel required, and the community perceives that the interaction within a server is dead. And because the interactions between local players are so diminished, they'll rely on LFD, LFR, and PG tools to form groups, and the cycle continues. It's a trade-off. It's easier than ever to form a group, and that ease enables antisocial or toxic behavior with a very minimal penalty. In a time before these tools were available though, this loop didn't exist, and communities were bound to their server. Groups and communities were formed out of necessity, with social consequences for players if they performed, or more importantly, behaved poorly in groups. Group content was peppered throughout the leveling experience, and at max level, endgame content was basically group up or die. Activities were basically to farm long, hours-long dungeons or to raid. So being a part of a guild that fit your needs and schedule felt really important. That's one draw that has players considering the idea of legacy, pristine, or private servers. Even if the content has been over and done with for years, even if it lacks quality of life changes like group looting and horde paladins, these players know it and jump in anyway. For them, they understand the natural social interactions that come with grouping. In a paradigm where grouping takes longer to accomplish, it's in turn more meaningful, and more likely to result in a continual relationship between players. This is still possible to do in the live version of WoW, but it's definitely not efficient for many players, and that's important to point out. I'm going to separate players into two camps, those who like easy matchmaking and those who don't. And let's not dwell on the bigger side or even which one is right. We just know that there are players on either side, and sometimes players will travel between both schools of thought, depending on their circumstances. In today's WoW, there's an attempt at some even-handedness with two game modes, Mythic Dungeons and Mythic Raids. Neither of these activities use a matchmaking queue system, but players can use the pre-made group tool to fill groups, although cross-realm Mythic raiding is unlocked later in that specific tier. This still isn't like the days of old though. It's still relatively easy to form a group, so the negative symptoms still exist. And cross-realm tools simply can't go away because there are hundreds of different realms to choose from. And there's gotta be something to bridge these players together, otherwise you'd have the vast majority of realms unable to sustain themselves at all. On the flip side, private servers only run on a few realms, usually a PvE and a PvP realm. The people that run those don't really have to deal with the logistical issues that come with having millions of players wanting to log in, they just had a few active realms. So one can conclude that WoW's explosive growth early on also created a pretty big problem regarding this now very spread out population. If WoW launched today and enjoyed the same growth with 2016 technology, we might see far fewer realms created and a different approach to group facilitation. Maybe there wouldn't be PvE, matchmaking, or cross-realm zones because server populations didn't force the need. But that's a fantasy situation. Today's WoW absolutely demands systems to facilitate group play with in-game tools and matchmaking. Some players struggle and have failed to find a long-term group that suits their playstyle. Others don't care at all for it because matchmaking gives them the freedom to do group activities when it's convenient for them, and that's okay. I thought that we're gonna see Blizzard forcefully coalesce hundreds of servers to the point where there's only like a max of 50 to 100 servers. It'd be neat, but I'm going off course again. There's a constant argument in forums and in-game about this whole topic. Some players are like, hey, if you don't like LFR or all these other tools, just don't do it and spam trade. Yeah, like that's gonna work. But it does drive a very good point. Blizzard has said numerous times that players will often follow the path of least resistance. It applies here as well as other other systems like flight. The tools or features are just there, waiting to be used, so of course players are going to use it. It's hard not to, even when you believe it to be a harmful thing for the game. It's one reason why players move on to different games or entertain the idea of a private server. Within these servers, players are more social because these tools don't exist. Players who join them have a better idea of what sorts of people are there, so you have a kind of more predictable and positive atmosphere. They can easily associate for mutual aid or to pursue common goals. Did you catch that? Was I clever? No. Well, not only did I just describe one of the bigger draws of a private server, I also described a guild. The very premise of creating a legacy or pristine or whatever realm is to funnel in a specific type of player who would enjoy certain things about WoW. This isn't very different from creating a guild that operates under specific conditions and restrictions and only accepts certain kinds of players. There are many different kinds of players in WoW, including those who like matchmaking as well as those who don't. A large number of players, maybe even a majority of them, want to be part of something. After all, this is an MMO. But it takes searching to find a good fit. Somewhere out there in WoW's hundreds of servers and thousands upon thousands of guilds is one that fits our playstyle and personality. Somewhere out there is the guild that suits the person who wants to log in and group with friends, and not stepping stones, whose goal is not just to complete the final objective and quit, but to enjoy the game, and build relationships between its people who share common interests. Somewhere inside other players still is that spark that makes them decide to make their own guild because they're fed up with searching, and instead of giving up, they feel like, hey, maybe I can do it too. Being social is not hard, it's just that queuing up is easier. Here's some wishful thinking. I would really like to see an improved guild finding tool, because the current one, I can't even be even-handed about this. It just sucks. It really sucks. I want to see useful, powerful filters that let guilds and free agents advertise and find out what they're looking for easily, based on stuff like item level, progression, very, very specific schedules, specs, and other things. Heck, guild leaders should be able to search for potential recruits too, and this should be available to do cross-server. There should also be a way to flag your guild if it's really exclusive for some reason. So for example, communities that run under special conditions like Twinks, Iron Man runners, or level locked guilds, they should be given an opportunity to stand out. If a free agent shows they're interested, the tool should let officers instantly pull that player into the guild, as opposed to making them wait until the player's online. I can't count how many players I've missed out because of that. I'm not calling for a return of guild perks or rewards, because like in Cataclysm, guilds were just used as a stepping stone for acquiring rewards and they just left. I won't go into any other solutions, but I very, very, very strongly feel that the complaints and problems with social interactions in WoW would be significantly lessened if a very strong emphasis is put into helping players find a guild. A successful guild overcomes most of these social problems because hopefully they've been vetted, and we know that these guildmates are solid players, or at least good people. I'm sticking my neck out, but take my guild, Prisoners of Warcraft, for example. We're really casual and we raid really late, like 10 AM Eastern till 1 AM twice a week. We're a bunch of older folks and we don't play like we used to, but we've got our heroic clears and we're just hanging out until Legion. One of my best friends says that POW, we call it POW, it's held together by the mutual hate we have for one another. But we've been around for 8 years and I've run POW for pretty much all of it. We use tools to fill groups when we need to, but we're kind of xenophobic, I guess. We'd rather take folks into the family and drag them through the dirt, just like family. Guildies come and go, and sometimes they come back again. We keep in touch outside of WoW and play other games together. We've done BlizzCons and we've seen our guildmates graduate, get married, and have kids. And we've said goodbye to one who left the world much too soon. So I understand the outrage of a big private server like Nostalrius being shut down. Setting aside the reasons and the legalities, a giant guild called Nostalrius was disbanded, and my heart does go out to that side of the community. The total sum of the Warcraft community, though, according to Ian Hazzikostas, is a collection of minority groups and sub-communities. Something gotta be done to help players find the right social fit for them. As for everyone else, I'll see you in the queue. Thanks for watching. Like and sub and let me know what you think. This topic is close to home because, again, I'm pretty pro-guild, so feel free to ask questions or start up a conversation in the comments below. Or just let me know what other topics you want me to talk about. I'm Soul. Stay breezy, guys.